point something out. Sam's side, Doug's side, Sam's side, Doug's side. Take your time, make it look nice. Even though it's covered, it's what we want.
Welcome to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating. On this episode of Sam's Garage, Sam and the Lokar boys install a new AC compressor bracket on the '69 Camaro. Sam and Doug get to work on the engine management system for the '57 Thunderbird. Action Off-Road helped wrap up the stereo installation in the CanAm side-by-side. Then Sam takes us back to the past with his turbo '98 Integra. Sam and the Lokar boys install a new AC compressor bracket on the '69 Camaro. The LS Classic kit from Lokar Performance helps bring it all together. Their AC accessory brackets fit just like factory and look even better.
You know, you guys look so hot driving up in this car. It's time to cool you down, right? And I see that you already have a front drive accessory from LS Classics, and you know as well as I do that you guys can purchase this in pieces. So now we're ready to add some cool air to this, and we can always buy this in pieces. Same thing with the vintage air.
Absolutely. So, you know, going home from last time, it got a little warm in there.
Oh yeah.
So we need to put the AC on.
Absolutely.
So it'll come with all the brackets, hardware, the AC compressor. You use the tensioner that you've already got on there from the previous kit, bolt right on and go.
Then from there you can go to Vintage Air, you can buy the hose kit, buy the condenser kit, and buy the inside unit and piece your kit together and have yourself some nice cool air. This kit from LS Classics is absolutely awesome. It's the same one that I have in my Cadillac. Reason being is you can build your car and get the one side with the power steering and the alternator, and let's say a year down the road you save up some more money, or Vintage Air has some more parts in stock, you can go ahead and get the AC compressor side, put it together, and make it a complete kit. Now, I'm looking at these spacers behind the water pump. Why would you guys add that? What's that for?
So this engine was a 6.0 liter truck engine, which the truck balancer sits pretty far off. That is an F-body water pump, which is what we use for all of our bracket kits. So you got to have 3/4 inch spacer between the block and the water pump on this one.
And the reason why I use the F-body is because of that wide pulley. It gives you a lot more versatility, right?
Right.
This is very nice. So all we have to do now is get us a condenser kit, we'll get us a hose kit, and an inside module. Don't forget the climate control head unit, and we can have ourselves some AC.
It's pretty easy to install, isn't it, Sam?
Man, we're gonna be so cool.
So we're changing the tensioner pulley on this setup here because originally it was going around the groove side, and now we're going on the back side of the belt, which is smooth. Feel that, Sam? See
I
how
feel
smooth
it
that
smooth.
is?
Now you guys want to make sure that when you're routing your belt, you can route this a couple different ways, which will work, but it'll be incorrect, because what you want to do is make sure to wrap your pulleys as much as you can with your belt, especially the crank pulley, because it drives everything, and the power steering, because there's going to be such a load on it, along with the compressor.
Yes, sir. So on the power steering, you can route it on the driver's side, or you can route it on the smooth side of the pulley, which you'll want to route on the smooth side of that pulley where it gets a lot of that belt wrap on the power steering pump.
I can see it right there. It looks really good.
Good deal.
Now, Travis, we replaced the tensioner pulley from a groove to a smooth. Why would you do that?
So we actually route the belt underneath on the tensioner, the one we replaced with the AC, so it rides on the smooth side of the belt instead of the groove side. So we did have to change that pulley on the tensioner.
Now I noticed you also added a couple pulleys in various spots. Is that for the belt routing?
It is to help on belt wrap on the crank. We've actually got an idler down there.
That is very nice. Now, I know that when I was installing your kit on my Cadillac, you sent me a message making sure that I put the belt on the pulley for the compressor in the proper location. And what is that?
Yeah, so these AC compressors, they're model specific. We're just using a 5-groove belt. This one I think is an 8 on the AC pump. So you just put it on the front side.
Okay, don't forget, guys, if you're using your LS Classic, don't forget to put the belt on the front side of the groove for the AC compressor. That way the routing will be correct, everything will be in line, and we'll have no issues.
Absolutely.
Cool. So now we have a complete front runner system. We have AC in place, everything's gonna work well. And if you guys wanna incorporate the AC compressor to the original AC unit, you can. Just gotta get yourself the correct fittings, hook up the hoses, and call it a day.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating. Sam and Doug get to work on installing the Holley EFI system in the 57 Thunderbird. First, they'll relocate the battery to the back of the car to help keep the engine bay clean and for better weight distribution. With the battery installed, they shift gears to the engine management system.
Today's the exciting day. It's where we live on our backs a lot because we're gonna be wiring this thing up with the Holley EFI, the Vintage Air, and the battery box from Summit Racing.
You know, speak for yourself when you say living on your backs a lot.
Just me, I'm the only one that does it, huh?
Well, no, I'll be watching.
That's fine.
I'll
He's
be
good
working
at
with
that. He watches, he
you know,
supervises, he's managing.
Yeah, that's fact, and we get a lot more done that way.
Well, let's quit talking. Tell me to get to work. And we'll
Okay, let's get to work, Sam.
There
I'm
you
going to
go.
work with you on this one.
We're relocating the battery to the trunk, and we're going to use this Taylor battery box, all aluminum construction. You can get this at Summit Racing. It's the best box out there. And we're using a marine battery. It's going to be in the trunk. This battery has more cold cranking amps. It's a 24F construction, and it's half the price of any other battery out there. There's no reason to pay more. And since it's not a gel battery, this box has a vent with a hose. All you gotta do is vent it and you'll be totally fine. So what I've done is run my power wire and my ground wire. Whenever you guys are doing any kind of electrical work, you have to make sure to keep the ground wire at its best. The integrity is through the ground wire. So you have to make sure to ground the body of the car and the chassis of the car. So what I did here was the bolt that goes through the trunk floor, I scraped the body around it, put a big flat washer. That way I capture the body and the frame at the same time. It's gonna give me a good ground. Then I'm gonna go up front, I'm gonna run the wire to the starter, use it as a junction box. I'm gonna go up to my sub fuse panel I installed and then run 2 big heavy grounds. The reason you want 2 is for redundancy. In case one gets corroded or something, you always have another one, because remember, your voltage is only as good as your ground. What I like to do is install a fuse holder in the back near the battery. It's gonna have a 200 amp fuse on it. That's gonna be plenty for the starter, but it'll also save the car if there is any electrical short. It's not gonna burn down. This is a must if you're building an aftermarket car, especially if you're relocating the battery to the trunk. I've got my Holley EFI along with another unit and 2 other units to make this engine run. The GMs just take the 1 unit. But what we decided to do was sandwich all the control modules on 1 plate. So now what I'm going to do, plug up all my plugs, then I'm going to run my fuel pump wire, my power ground, and signal wire, and we should have power to the Holley, and then we should be able to crank it. The glove box is going to be not used because there's a Vintage Air behind there anyways. So when you open the glove box, you'll be able to see all the diagnostic lights from the Holley. So in case there's a problem, open the lid, check your lights, go to your book, reference it, fix your car.
You know, I'm just adding or lending moral support for Sam. He's the master mechanic, I'm the helper.
Now if you ask Kevin and Travis.
Why? Are they the master mechanics and you're the helper?
Mm-hmm. Well, Doug, I appreciate you doing the hard work, which was getting on your back and doing the climate control unit for the Vintage Air. It looks awesome.
Well, thank you, Sam. You know, for you old guys out there, I felt like a tunnel rat. I spent so much time on my back try to do all that intricate stuff. You know, it's a lot tougher for an old guy.
I can see how tough it was just by the condition of your hair when you were done. But you look good now, and that's all that matters.
You know, Sam, at least I still have hair.
All we gotta do now is put fuel in it, hook up one wire, and we're ready to go. Vintage air is done, Hull EFI is installed, we're ready to go. If you guys are gonna be building yourselves a competitive drag car, you're gonna need to do burnouts. And to do them effectively, you're gonna have to use a line lock. Something similar like this, it's a solenoid, has an in and an out, but it's gotta be designed for brake fluid so it can handle the corrosive natures of the brake fluid. What you're gonna do is you're gonna put it in the line. If you were rear wheel drive, you're gonna interrupt the front wheels. If you're front wheel drive, you're gonna interrupt the rear wheels. And what you're gonna do is when you interrupt it and you hit the button, this is gonna stay activated so that when you release the foot off the brake, it's gonna hold the pressure in whichever line you interrupted. So it's gonna keep my front wheels completely locked. That way there is no resistance on the drive wheels, and I can do a very effective, efficient burnout without putting a whole bunch of stress on the engine. That way when I get up to the line, it's gonna be nice and easy to hook up better, get me a better trap speed and a better ET. In the professional drag world, it is illegal to be in the pit box at the burnout and hold the car back trying to be the line lock. Don't do that. You guys wanna be effective? Install a line lock, get yourself a proper burnout.
Welcome back to more Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU. Action Off-Road is back at the garage to help wrap up the stereo system in the CanAm side-by-side. They work on installing the brand new head unit and speakers. Because this vehicle spends the majority of its time off-road, they need to make special consideration for water and mud.
All right, welcome back. Now we are ready to install the head unit and the amplifiers. James has the head unit, Santo and him are gonna install it. Then we're gonna get the wiring done and hopefully listen to the music today. You guys got Mariah Carey? So I got James and Santo working really hard inside the side-by-side. They've got the brackets for the amplifiers already done, installed on the firewall. James is right now wiring up the wire harness from the head unit to the amps, to the speakers, and then we got our power and ground over there. We're gonna install next to the amps from the battery so that we can power everything up and test everything out. So the amplifier kicker provides, the two amplifiers sit on a common bracket, and that bracket has another sub-bracket that bolts onto the car. On the right side of the bracket, you have to go in and find your hole where it meets up with the firewall. In some cases, has to be fitted, and that right bolt contacted the roll cage. So there was about a 1.25 inch gap. We put in a shim, or spacer should I say, marked our hole, put our hardware in, and we're able to mount that side. Now, if you guys are doing this at home and you don't want to mess with that, don't do that, because this is going to be bouncing around, lots of vibration. You really want to mount every point that kicker gives you, because they put it there for a reason. Man, James, that was a lot of work. I saw you and Santo in here for a few hours. What'd you get done? Why don't you tell the people what the proper procedure is to get a radio installed, do it right, do it safe, and make it sound good?
I installed this head unit here. First thing we did, we mocked everything up on the table, got it all set up. Then we had to go and place the main mounting bracket in the center here. We got the holes drilled and everything lined up. Then we drilled the main hole for all the wiring. That's kind of tricky. So when you're doing that, you don't want to drill through the dash and hit all the wiring below it. Also, when you run those wires, you want to make very sure that you wrap all the wires up with rubber or some sort of anti-abrasion, keep the wires from rubbing on anything metal. So next, we came down here, we wired the main pigtail up to the power, which goes right back here to the fuse box. And then Santo and me, we went through here and wired all the amp wires up. We got the main amp wires powered up. We got all the kicker wires ran to the kicker speakers over here and over here, and also the main subwoofer here.
And explain to everybody how important it is to keep all your connections waterproof, especially in this case.
Okay, so these machines are a lot of times submerged in water, and obviously it's not the best for speakers, but they get by because they're marine grade. We use dielectric grease on all our connections. What that does is basically keeps the moisture out of the connection points, and years down the road, a bunch of water in the connection points will eventually cause corrosion, and then you're gonna have all kinds of electrical problems, and then you're gonna be chasing electrical problems. You dielectric grease it and use waterproof connectors that are all heat shrink, you're good to go for a long time.
Okay. That looks so good.
It does.
That's cool. Very cool. And it's all waterproof, so they don't have to worry about anything getting
Nope,
damaged.
nothing at all. Nice.
Very nice. Good job.
Thank you.
James, good job. James, good job. Thank you. Santo, good job. I know it was a lot of hours, but it's worth it. And you guys, when you do this, anytime you do an audio or wiring, take your time. Waterproof the connections, like James said. Insulate everything, mount everything, because you're going to be bouncing this thing around. And if you want to have an audio system for your side-by-side, make sure to go to actionoffroad.com.
Welcome back to more Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU.
I'm really excited. I get to finally get my Integra running. If you remember last season, we did some heat management by adding a DEI turbo blanket and wrapping the 3-inch downpipe. Today, we're gonna be doing the intercooler piping. We're gonna do a valve adjustment. I'm gonna show you guys how VTEC works. And then we're gonna add a clutch, bleed the clutch, go into the computer, show you how Honda and the standalone works, and get this thing running. Hopefully, it'll be on the road by Christmas. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the crank pulley by taking a swivel 19. I'm gonna put it at top dead center. Now Honda is one of the few, besides Mitsubishi, that actually had adjustable rocker arms to where you can do a valve adjustment on these B series and H series motors, even the V6s from back in the day. Now what you have to do is, when you're doing the valve adjustment, you start with the engine at top dead center and you go in the order of the firing order. So we're 1, 3, 4, 2. We're gonna start with number 1. We're gonna turn it where the cam rotates 1/4. That's gonna put number 3 at top dead center, base circle, that's where you wanna do the valve adjustment. We'll do another quarter, go to the next spark plug or hole, and then do another quarter and do the last one. I know the specs on this, exhaust is gonna be 11 and intake is gonna be 9. They make this cool tool for Hondas back in the day from Snap-on to where you can go down, loosen the jam nut, and turn the rocker arm adjustment at the same time. So one tool does the whole thing. So I got all 4 cylinders adjusted, 4 valves per cylinder. Do not forget to remove your tool from the crank pulley, because when you go to turn it on, it's gonna be a really bad day. A little over 20 years ago, Honda really took over the streets because of the power that this little 4-cylinder can make. That turbo is good for 800 to 900 horsepower. The motor is fully sleeved and forged and good for about 1,000 horsepower. Now, the reason why Honda became so popular is because of variable valve timing, VTEC. VTEC stands for Valve Timing Electronic Control. 3 lobes on their camshaft. So basically, it's like 2 camshafts in one. Because whenever you guys want to make horsepower, you're going to sacrifice drivability for it. So if you put a drivable street cam as your low RPM camshaft, it'll run just fine. But then when you really want to get on it, this thing's VTEC comes in at 4,800 RPM and it revs to 8,200 RPM. So then what happens is the center lobe, which is the second portion of the camshaft, which is a much bigger lobe, gets locked in place with hydraulic pressure through this solenoid. And that locks the 2 rocker arms on both sides of the camshaft together, riding off the center lobe. That's a much bigger lift and duration, creating a whole nother cam at a certain RPM. And that's what made variable valve timing VTEC so popular. Hondas were destroying the streets back in the early 2000s, and VTEC is the reason why. It's got that traditional sound where it's a switch. Today's variable valve timing is gradual. There is no hard switch, so you don't hear or feel anything. All you're feeling is a linear power band. Back in these days, when VTEC came on, it was a switch. You could hear the tone completely change, and that's what made Honda so cool, and that is the technology that made them also make all the power that they make. Now I'm gonna put my valve cover on. Anywhere there's a corner, half moon, you wanna use glue. I'm gonna use Honda Bond, a little bit of glue on all sides. It's 8 sides. All right, you don't want to forget to put your DEI turbo blanket back on. That turbo lives around a lot of crucial parts, especially the radiator, so a little bit of heat management won't hurt anybody. All right, I got the intercooler piping all installed. Everything with the turbo is pretty much buttoned up. I'm going to do my vacuum lines. I'm going to give us a clutch by installing the hydraulics, and then we're going to tackle that computer and get this thing running.
Be sure to check out Sam's Garage on these other media platforms. Send us questions and feedback to info@samsgaragetv.com. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Sam's Garage. Sam and the team installed a new AC condenser and bracket in the '69 Camaro. Sam and Doug made great progress on the engine management system for the Thunderbird. Action Off-Road turned up the dial on the sound system in the CanAm side-by-side. And Sam gave us a history lesson on how VTEC works in Honda engines.